careers within his life. I had the pleasure and opportunity to sit with Jeff as he structured his icebreaker speech for this evening, and I'm the one who's responsible for giving him the 5 to 7 minute window that he thought was correct.
That's right,
So
it was you.
that was me. But I'm going to not steal any of Jeff's thunder because he has such a great speech. I'm looking so much forward to hearing it, Jeff. Come on up and tell us about your life.
Boy, you all look a lot different than my dog did on the couch tonight. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. The year is 1969, San Francisco area, flower children, hippies, Vietnam War protests going on, and my draft lottery number comes up 15. I'm 18 years old, just got out of high school, and I'm going to be drafted. And this led to my friend and I deciding to join the military. But we didn't want to just do regular military. We decided to do something really cool and stupid, like jump out of airplanes. We ended up joining the paratroopers, better known as the Airborne Infantry, on the buddy system. Upon graduating from that, everybody that went through jump school went straight to Vietnam back in those days. Somehow, I received a blessing and was sent to Alaska for 2 years, and everybody behind us went to Vietnam. Of the 20 or so jumps that we made while we were in Alaska for 2 years, one in particular stands out. We had to fly from Anchorage to Fairbanks in the back of this large cargo jet where it's just a shell with nylon webbing seats, and you strap yourself in there. The problem with this 2 to 3 hour flight was that the pilots had to log low altitude flight time, which meant they had to stay, I think it was under 1,500 feet. So when you fly a jet at 1,500 feet, there's a lot of turbulence and also a lot of nausea. Consequently, about half the guys lost their breakfast on the way to Fairbanks, and the plane would bank and the emesis would come rolling up under your feet. It didn't smell so good either. By the time we got there, you've never seen 50 guys want to get out of a plane so bad in their life. When they told us to stand up, I looked across the plane at one of the guys about third in line to go out the other door. His name was Meisler. He was from Jersey. He had this accent. He was real sarcastic. He was always talking like this, giving people a bad time. He stands up. All of a sudden, he pulls off his helmet, vomits in it, dumps it on the floor, puts it back on his head, and out the door he went. Why the helmet? It was already all over the floor. I have had 4 completely distinctive careers, different careers, since those early days. I got a degree in respiratory therapy, worked in hospitals. I was a painting contractor for 10 years in Southern Oregon. Lived in a nice little town, Ashland, Oregon. Shakespeare plays, a lot of theater. I took a job as a salesperson in Oregon, selling paint equipment, and ended up getting promoted to Seattle as a regional manager, where I ended up running a warehouse, a dozen employees. We shipped industrial paint equipment to Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska. Those careers made for a lot of interesting experiences, of which I have time, I think, for one. I was working in a hospital in California on an evening shift, and this guy comes in, heart attack, not breathing, no heartbeat. Clinically, he was dead. So we start CPR, we've got him on the table, we're working on him for a while, and we shock him with the paddles, and all of a sudden we start getting a little bit of a heartbeat. And we keep doing CPR, and all of a sudden this guy sits up on the gurney, eyes wide open, looking at all of us, like, what is going on here? Scared the hell out of us. So anyway, we settle him down, get him to intensive care unit, and he stabilizes over the week, and they send him home. About a month later, I'm walking down the hall of the hospital, and here he comes. He's running down the hall looking all full of vigor, and I'm like, Joe, God, you look great. How you doing? He goes, I'm doing great. I'm like, you remember me? He goes, yeah, I remember you. You're the guy that always put that breathing thing in my face. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He said, like we started walking down the hall, and I turned to him and I said, you know, I was in the emergency room when you came in, and you were dead. And he goes, yeah, no. I'm like, you remember? He goes, yeah, I remember. I'm like, well, what happened? He said, all I can tell you is I got to a place where I realized I hadn't taken care of everything in my life, and I had to come back and take care of it. And I said, do you remember what they are? He goes, yeah, I remember what they are, and I'm taking care of all of them. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So I kind of get a little chill when I tell that story, and off he goes down the hall, taking care of business. We all know what happened. Oh, I skipped one of my careers. My last one was as a mortgage person here in Wenatchee. I was able to get the company I worked for in Seattle. They got bought out, so I found my way to Wenatchee, got out of all that traffic, and got in the mortgage business where I spent my last 5 years at Taylor Mortgage, where I got to be good friends with Roger and April Taylor. Some of you know her, I know Joe does. We all know what happened with the mortgage business, and there was only so much time I had to get out of there. We were sending loans to the banks, and they were going out of business before they could even process it. It was just crazy. Since I have not decided what it is I want to do when I grow up, I'm embarking on yet another career. And the next 3 weeks I won't be here because I'll be in San Francisco going to the International Tour Management Institute to be trained as a tour director. I learned about this from April Taylor, and she went through it last year. She speaks really highly of it, is having a great time traveling around and getting paid for it. So it sounded good to me. Knowing this is what got me to Toastmasters, because I knew I was going to have to start speaking to large groups of people. So I look forward to sharing that experience with all of you when I come back. And thanks for listening.